Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Speak Up for Life.
My name is Edward Thomas, and my co-host is...
Lindgren.
Why are you so laughing at me?
You're stupid. Capital S.
Wow.
We have studio audience today, everyone.
Yes, we have two of our biggest fans here. They won the raffle. Some of you guys missed the raffle because we didn't announce it. So only 2 people signed up and they won. So that's how it works sometimes here, you know. That's
cool.
the Swedish way.
Everyone's a winner.
Exactly. You can't lose in Sweden. No.
Because you can.
No, you can't. We artificially make sure people can't win. I mean, lose.
Exactly. They cannot lose.
We always celebrate.
Everyone wins.
We celebrate 5th place. Oh, we got in 5th. It was like, oh, wow.
Sad.
I know.
Okay.
What's
today's topic?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. What's today's topic?
Dude.
Okay, so some of our fans have written in and talked to us about their STDs. These are called sexually transmitted diseases. And so, why are you looking at me like that?
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't even know what they want us to talk about. They just said, can you talk about STDs? And we're like, oh, okay, sure. It's not like, you know.
But why was your sexual education like in the U.S.? Because in those American teenage movies, it's always like some coach talking about the kids like, just abstinence. So I don't know. Is that
I don't know what kind of American movies you watch, but.
Like Mean Girls. That's my reference frame.
I grew up in the 60s, so I grew up in the era of free love.
So everyone's like, just do it.
No one ever thought about STDs back in the 60s
Really?
and 70s. Yeah, because everyone, that was like, everyone's kind of like, oh, it's just free love.
So the worst thing could happen was you getting pregnant?
You knew about like gonorrhea and you knew about syphilis in school. And they would show you a picture of like somebody's private parts. No, there was no chlamydia back then.
I'm sure there was.
No, there was. The chlamydia didn't come out until the 80s.
Okay.
But in the 70s, probably like closer to the 90s. But in the 70s, there was mostly gonorrhea and syphilis.
Oh, man.
And so they would show you a picture of it, and it was just so disgusting. It's like, I don't never want to have sex with anybody. I'm like, don't touch me. Don't look at me. You look like you have gonorrhea. Okay. Just run and hide, And so that was, our sex education was like really bad because it was still, a lot of it was still steeped in the 50s. So the teachers.
Was it taboo?
Well, yeah, the teachers would always like, it's flesh.
Really?
Yeah. So, when I got here to Sweden, it was different. Sweden was like, torn up porn in school and everything. I'm like.
But you came to Sweden in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a different time, though.
It was a different time ago. Now it's really different. Well, but yeah, so we came, when I went to the States, the nurse came in. We have school nurses back then. And so she had her little mannequin. And then, so when she started taking the mannequin apart, all the guys are like looking at, what? The vagina, the uterus. Oh, everyone's like, oh. But
how old were you then?
I think I was like in the 6th grade or something.
Okay, so 12-ish, 11, 12.
Yeah, because I'm like, I was a nerd, so I'm like, what?
We're just not a nerd about that.
People touch girls' peepees?
Ew.
Ew. I thought it was like, ew, until I was like 17.
Okay. And
not that I went around touching or anything.
You went around touching people
I just wasn't grossed out as much by it as I had been earlier in life. Mm-hmm. And then, so they took everything apart and had like the mannequin, and they show you how the penis and everything. And I'm just like, I don't know. When she halved the penis, I was like, ugh, wow.
Half the penis.
Yeah, like she took it up, she like moved it, and so all of a sudden there was like a half a penis. So that she could show how the semen came out and stuff. I'm like,
oh, was that like a syringe?
No, it wasn't live action. It was like
4D and everything.
Excuse me, who's the stupid kid in the class? Come stand in front of the thing. Squirt, squirt.
Was like 4D and all the sounds.
No, there was no sounds, no nothing. Okay, this is like really
2D,
extremely 2D with nothing moving. Okay, and then she talked about condoms, and she talked about sexually transmitted diseases. She talked about gonorrhea and syphilis and showed us nasty pictures of it. And they showed us like canker sore in somebody's mouth. And I was like, whoa. And like every time you saw somebody just had a little messed up mouth, you're like, syphilis! You got syphilis?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We were small kids. We were like small kids, very isolated. So we weren't like, we didn't have the internet or anything like that. So we didn't know We weren't as up on the world as kids are
But
now.
when I was a kid, it was more about herpes, not so much about syphilis.
No, my herpes was like when high school. So when I got in high school, they started talking about herpes, and I'm just like, it made me not like, and that's probably like I didn't want to kiss anybody.
Because like, you all have herpes.
I'm like you all. I'm like I know I don't have herpes. I ain't touched nothing with nothing. No part of me has touched any other person's parts of anything. And I'm like, my lips are virgin clean. And I just don't want to get your herpes. And I mean, people are like, because you people break out in cold sores.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But it doesn't have to be herpes.
I don't care. It looks like herpes.
Okay. You're an expert on herpes.
It looked like the picture, and
Therefore, you're
So
not
I
as good as an AI. They can even distinguish on pictures if it's herpes or not.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm taking a class in AI now, so I learn a lot about it.
Antichrist. I'm just saying, when he comes,
No,
he's gonna say,
Antichrist is AC. I'm AI. Okay.
all right, DUMB, whatever.
Well, when I was in school, we also talked about STDs, and I vividly remember that the teacher. Don't make jokes about this. The teacher asked me if I wanted to hold the lecture about STDs, which I did.
Why would I not make fun of that? That's just like...
It was an honor, okay? Because why would a teacher ever ask a student to hold a lecture in high school?
Lynn, I want to ask you if you can come
That's
here.
not a German accent.
That's a German accent.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's my German accent.
It's a stupid accent.
Okay, how does a German accent sound?
I don't know.
See?
I don't have a German accent.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I
when
don't.
you talk right now, I hear German just coming through. Like,
Or maybe you have a stroke.
It's like, if I do, you better make sure you call the ambulance.
No,
give me
we
mouth
have
to
a
mouth
nurse
too.
here.
Oh yeah, you can give me mouth to mouth.
She's like, I'm
She's
not
like,
getting
what is she
involved.
talking about? You're gonna let me die, asphyxiate? Oh my gosh, what kind of evil Christian people are you people?
What kind of Christian people? We know
You
Christian
better
people.
pump my heart until your hands fall off.
No.
You make sure that
No, I can't reach that hard even if we tried.
What are you trying to say? So much fat around it?
No.
You're trying to say.
Hard.
You're trying. Oh my god.
Emotional damage.
Oh my gosh. We can't publish this.
Yes, we can.
Can we?
Okay.
You sure? Okay.
So, would you
Back
say...
to the topic, Lynn. Stop getting off track.
But I think, I don't know, I think HIV was a really big deal when I grew up. Because the thing is, when I last went to Germany, I still could see... That never happened in Sweden. But in Germany, you every now and then you see big billboards with like...
Big canker sores.
No, with advertisements for condoms. And like to protect yourself against HIV and AIDS. And I was thinking that was really... When I grew up, that was like the norm. I saw it all the time.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, in Sweden, I never. There's no advertise for anything.
No, I think that... Because I grew up in San Francisco. So when I grew up in San Francisco, because we have such a large gay community, so there was this sickness, there was this thing going around in the gay community.
And they didn't know what it was.
No, and then they came out with this thing called AIDS, but it was still only in the gay community.
Yeah.
So no one ever thought about the fact that they need to protect themselves in the heterosexual community.
Because that's a gay thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But because there's people who swing both ways and, people hang out and party together and get drunk or whatever.
But also because they were drug addicts and sharing needles.
Yeah,
and
sharing
stuff.
needles. So it was like, and then they came out, I think I read an article about Kaposi syndrome, which is a type of cancer that you can get from when you have HIV. But it was still among the gay community. So everything was focused on that. And then when it finally sort of crossed the barrier, then it was like this really scary thing. Like,
Yeah, because people couldn't treat it. You would die.
and I think back in I graduated in high school in 1980, and it was like in the 80s that it became like a big deal in California and stuff. And so I was like terrified. Like I was always terrified. I'm like, because no one knew about it. And so you had a lot of uneducated ideas. I'm thinking like, is it in the air? Could you get it from anyone? Hugging. I'm just like, somebody look kind of sick. I'm like, I don't know. Don't hug me.
So would you say those people were marginalized and
Yeah. I mean,
isolated
it was so scary, and people were so stupid about it. So that I think a lot of people in the beginning, when they got HIV, they were just isolated. They died. It was just like everybody
You had
just
the
died.
plague,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
And so people didn't want to tell anybody about it or anything like that. And then once they started developing I think it was
to do research.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember I was going to say ibuprofen. There was some other thing starts with I, but it was some kind of drug or
antiviral one.
Interferon or something like that. And that came out first, and then so it looked like there was going to be hope, and maybe they were going to come up with a cure or something like that, which they still haven't done.
But they're close.
Really,
they're trying with. I think they're trying with genetic tools.
Okay.
And I think I
haven't seen much reports now on HIV.
No, but I mean there are so many other things all the time. But there's still a lot of research going on HIV, and many people, if they have access to the right medication, can live really long time.
It's not like it used to be. So.
But those medications are really expensive. So I think if you would live in some country where they cannot subsidize it, I think you're screwed because those medications are really, really expensive. And
I think there was a basketball player named Magic Johnson. So he was like a really good basketball player. And then he came out and said he was HIV positive. And that like shocked everybody.
Yeah, because people, I touched him. I shared a
No, I mean, because he was like a basketball player and he was straight. And then people was like, well, how did he get it? And then
but that was back then.
Yeah.
Not now.
And so then, but I think he's still alive, and he's like, he's been treating it and living with it and everything like that. So I think that HIV was like probably the most scariest. And then in the 2000s, when people started talking about the human Pavlova virus,
HPV,
and that because they a little bit later on discovered that causes cervical cancer.
I mean,
or its presence in people who have cervical cancer have HPV. So.
And a lot of young women actually die from cervical cancer.
Yeah.
I think that was the big issue too, because that old people die of cancer is kind of more acceptable because they're old and their genes are not working
That's
as well.
That's what we call ageism. People are okay with old people dying.
No, it's not okay, but it's more understandable. But I mean, a lot of young people. I mean, my supervisor in Germany, she had a niece, and she was just in her 30s, and she died from cervical cancer and left 2 young kids.
Wow!
So that's why I think sad. I think there's a real interest in treating this, and I remember when I was young, I got the HPV shot.
Okay.
And I think that was just around the time when they just started introducing it, because now it's like mandatory or it's like recommended for every young girl.
And my daughters got, that's when I first figured out about it or heard about it was like with my daughters, and then that's like, oh, I'm like, what do they take shots for? Are you having sex? Typical Christian dad, like, are you having sex? Not in my house. You better not be having fornication in my house.
You're like, oh, okay.
They're like, Dad, no, we're not having sex. We just want to get protected just in case. Just in case of what? Anybody come near you, I will shoot them.
There is no risk of HPV because there's no risk of anyone.
Exactly. There's an electric fence around them. Like,
I remember.
So that's but I think it's really good that Sweden. I don't know how it is in the States, but at least in Sweden, that it's like a mandatory and it's free and.
I got it in Germany. But I was pretty old. I mean, I think when I got it, I was maybe 16 or 17.
Wow, that's really old.
But I mean, that's when it just came.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been there for so long. No. I remember when I remember what age I was, maybe 10. And this HIV thing and AIDS thing, I don't know how big it was. It was in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And the school actually took us to this kind of center for people who had HIV and AIDS.
Wow.
And we got some education there. And then there was a guy who had AIDS, and they just wanted to teach us and tell us like to not stigmatize those people because you can't catch it from giving them the hand. You can't catch it from sitting next to them. You can't catch it from sitting in the same room.
No.
Because that was like a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
So in the end they said like if you would want to, you can shake the hand of this man. I remember his name. And I did, and I felt like, ooh, wow. But I think also it was just a big deal. Because I think if no one had told me, I'm like, oh, whatever.
I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, and it's kind of weird, like living in an age where several new types of viruses or other types of infection agents just have arrived. I mean, that's the thing with like COVID. I mean, we had HIV, we had COVID. I don't know how long Ebola has been around, but that always scared me.
But that didn't really spread it the
No, I
same
know,
way
and it's
because
not
people died.
It's not a sexually transmitted disease. It just now that we're talking about diseases and viruses, it just made me think about Ebola because that's my biggest fear.
But I mean,
one of my biggest fears is that one day I'm going to get Ebola and my eyes are going to bleed out. And
I think there hopefully will
That's
be
just what I think about.
treatment until then.
maybe
They're working on a treatment for Ebola.
they
but-
always say they're working on a treatment
But
until
people do.
Yeah, then when rich people get it, then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we have this like really powerful drugs and everything, and
Yeah.
when poor people get it, like, we're working on it, we'll get there one day, we'll make it. When poor people get money, we'll help them out, So
But then, I mean,
not
nowadays,
that I'm critical or anything, but
I think nowadays people are more educated about chlamydia because I
forgot about that. That was like a big deal.
Yeah, that doesn't really show symptoms for many people. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to. And then, but you can still pass it on, and you can have really bad consequences from chlamydia, like infertility.
Really?
If you leave
Wow.
it untreated, it can go bad.
See, because I was a classical music student, I was always afraid that one day, because Beethoven became deaf because he had syphilis.
What?
Yeah. And so
Wow.
he was always thinking like, okay, so I don't want to get syphilis because that'll make you deaf.
Is that what you teach
makes you
the
crazy.
kids in music
No,
class?
not now. But back then, that's what we were taught, So, I mean, it was always a scare thing. Like you always are scared of what the untreated symptoms are going to be like, even though they take a long time. But there's like a lot of people in history who have,
STDs?
who actually have died of it.
Yeah, but I
was
mean,
untreated,
especially
it was
royalty and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they were sleeping around, and obviously they passed it to everyone.
They were nasty royals.
But the most recent, I don't know if you could classify it as a STD, but yeah. But I mean, what about monkeypox?
How do you get it?
Well, I think it started. Our studio audience is very descriptive.
He starts jumping around.
But I mean, that also, I think
scratching his eyeballs.
I think that also, I don't know how much you got it from the media, but it was more common among homosexual men. Monkeypox.
Really?
Yeah, but it wasn't a big deal in the media. Like people were like, "Oh, it's the new gay thing."
Yeah.
It wasn't like that because it also passed on to non-gay
Yeah, but
people.
I mean, chickenpox, I understand.
No, but
but
those
monkeypox-
monkeypox, they were much more. They were like you had to have
Make it
very
look like a
close
monkey.
contact to get it, to catch it.
Uh-huh.
It was
Yeah,
not
but-
enough to sit in the same room. For example, you had to
but
have
chickenpox you don't get from sitting in the same room, do you?
chickenpox. Yes, chickenpox are really chickenpox
Is it really
are,
contagious? Because
are,
I never
are really
got it. So
contagious. Yeah,
when I was a kid, everyone else around me got chickenpox, and I never got it. I was like,
you could have gotten it because you can have it. You could have had it without symptoms, and your body has antibodies. Like you can go check.
my body has antibodies against
you're
the
gonna-
pox.
you
Bring
can go
me
check.
all your poxes,
Because I don't.
and I will make them, and I will try to take care of them with my epoxy.
So stupid.
That was so funny. Okay. Anyway, back to seriousness.
So, but I don't remember in school.
Yeah, but no one's died of monkeypox, have they?
Yes.
Don't just get
but
pox
not-
and get sick.
No. People have died, but not like a crazy amount of numbers.
You can die of monkeypox?
Yes.
Oh, see, you shouldn't tell me that.
Why?
Because
Now
the first
you're,
person
like,
that comes to
thinking everyone
church,
is like-
it looks like they got a little pox. It might be a zit, but I don't know. It might be a pox. So I'll be like, what the
But that's why we're talking about it, so people would not be
so
like
people don't
you.
hug me. So people don't hug me.
Yeah. So people not like
I'm
you.
afraid anyway when people hug me.
No.
I never know what they might do.
So what do you think? How can we, or should we be isolating people or not?
Who?
Should we
Like-
isolate people or not that are sexually transmitted diseases?
Well, what are you going to do? Put a chastity belt on them?
Too late, I guess.
Well, I mean, they can't spread anything.
Yeah, that's the point.
You know.
But you know what's fun? I've seen a graph where people showed over time transmission of STDs. So it would have been outbreak somewhere, and then you could see how people traveled to other cities and then started the outbreak over there. So that was a really funny graph.
Wow.
Because people are too promiscuous.
Exactly.
And they're not protecting themselves, because I think the only thing that is really, really helping you is a condom. Like all the other contraceptions. Like,
no, there is something else that can help you.
Yeah, abstinence.
Yes.
You see, Mean Girls was right. Abstinence. Told you.
Well, I think that's one of the hardest things. I mean, like when I used to work with the youth, and we would talk about relationships and sex and everything, and people are like, "Okay, so how are you going to tackle this?" And I'm like, "Listen, the Bible says you're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage.
Yeah, so that's.
But if you're going to go ahead and break God's law, please use a condom." And people will get like, in the conservative churches, like, "I can't believe you said that. You don't love Jesus." I'm like,
you are telling kids to have sex?
I'm like, I'm not saying go out and have sex. I'm just saying like,
if you're going to
have sin, like you can like not compound the sin by getting something that you can't get rid of. I'm trying to protect your children here.
They're like, no.
It doesn't sound like it. Sounds like you're trying to make them into sinners. You're just gonna sin all over the place. I'm like, they might do that anyway. So.
Yeah. I was thinking they might do it anyway. It's not like because you're not telling them will make them not do it.
Yeah, well, exactly. If you don't mention it, you stick your hand in the sand and nothing will happen. You'll get no canker sores on you, and then when you get one, you're like, I don't know how I got it.
What is this?
Where were you doing last night? The party?
Nothing.
No, but I think that when it comes to, and those of you who are listening, and you're like, why are they talking about STDs? It's not because we have it or anything. We just take what our listeners say. See, now you're gonna make me say something. And people are listening saying, he cannot be a pastor at all. That voice is nasty. He needs a spanking. Where is the belt?
There are couples that before they get married, they actually
spank each other?
No, they actually do take a test. Both of them have to take a test to show that they don't have HIV or any other STD.
You know what? If I was single, living
which
in
you
the
are
world,
not,
I'm not, and I'm not getting a divorce because I'm okay. But if I was going to be single again and I thought I was going to get married to someone, I'd make them take the test.
Really?
Listen, I don't want to pick up whatever poxy-woxy stuff.
Well, what kind of marriage are you entering if the other person wouldn't tell you that they have a STD?
Oh my gosh. That would be like...
That's bad.
I wonder... Okay. See, this is one of those questions the Bible can't answer.
No. Obviously, it's not like...
So God, if it turns out that my husband or wife had an STD and didn't tell me about it, can I divorce them? Inquiring minds want to know. So those of you guys, our listeners send in stuff and we talk about anything because that's what Fika for Life is all about. There is no taboo. We can talk about anything, everything, and everyone.
All the time.
All the time. 24 hours a day, 27 days a week. 7 days a week.
How many days does your week have? 24.
I'm on Jupiter weeks. They're really long.
They're really long. Wow.
Okay, but if you find yourself, you're listening to this podcast, you're like, oh my gosh, I've been sleeping around. I haven't been protecting myself. Why don't you go and get yourself screened and then stop being stupid and then protect yourself?
My husband's friend, he was about to enter a relationship with a girl who was a virgin because she was younger than him. And he
is that the definition? If she's younger than me, then she's got to be a virgin. Or...
No. But in that case, it was.
Okay.
But
age thing, so.
Now we're talking about that they were in the early 20s.
Yeah.
That's why. So he took an HIV test and he got really nervous because he felt, when you take a test and you are pretty sure you don't have anything, but still you're like, but what if it comes out positive?
No, I'd already feel nervous if I knew I've been sneaking around doing stuff I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but it could be that person did that. I don't know. But
okay.
I think people, I don't know.
It's a test. I might fail it anyway kind of idea.
No, they're like, but maybe they have been not really protect themselves every now and then suddenly they're like, oh no, what if I have it?
Yeah, that's true. No, but I think that I don't think it's a bad thing to take a test.
I think you should take a test if you've been promiscuous.
Yeah, even if you just slept with like one person and you're not getting married to them and you're just like moving on, then you should get a test and then you should be smart. That's the only thing I can say.
Protect yourself and others?
Yes. Yes, that's like the wise thing to do. But if you find out that you're not sure, get yourself tested. If you find out that you have an STD, then you need to develop a type of honesty where you tell people, you're getting serious with someone.
And I think in Sweden, it's also under the law. Like you have to tell your healthcare provider,
you can go to
and
jail.
you have to tell people. You have to inform them that I have this. I've been with you. You have to go get checked.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like that in the States. I didn't research that. If it's as tough legally, but here at least it is, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a responsible government. So.
But it's shameful, and I understand that. But people have to take responsibility for
who wants to walk around with a big shirt? Hey, hug me. I have chlamydia, syphilis, and gonorrhea. It's not.
You don't have to accumulate it, okay?
It's not like you go on a dating site, and you're on a dating site. It's like, so what are some negative things about you? Well, I have 3 or 4 STDs, and they're untreated still because I'm just too lazy.
Oh, wow.
But I'm looking for someone to spend the rest of my life with. It's like, it's one of those things you kind of hide, unfortunately. Maybe we can do something about that with this podcast.
Yeah.
Bring it up to the surface, to the light.
And I think people can always do stupid things, but when they take responsibility and try to make it right, I think you can move on from that.
Yeah, we should give them a high five.
Yeah, I think you should not be ashamed for the rest of your life for that. You should only be ashamed if you don't claim responsibility and don't do anything about that.
Well, I was born in the 60s. Guilt is just a part of the way we do life.
Well...
There's
Let's reintroduce guilt.
Let's bring back shame. Let's shame people. Tell us who you are, and we'll put your face on the internet so we can shame you.
If you want to know more about shame and guilt, listen to our podcast. It's about shame
and guilt. About shaming. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. What are you going to do tonight, Lynn?
Talk with my dear friends.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh.
Not you.
That's why I hate you. Oh, well. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good time. And keep writing in. Remember, we're almost at 225,000 listeners right now. So you can help to make that number even greater. Do your part. Lynn and Ed need you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.